show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. And Chair jointly will pray and do the pledge to the American Texas flag and the report mission station. Heavenly Father, we're grateful for today and your provision during it. Thank you for this much needed rain. Lord, thank you for the ability we have to meet here and consider the job before us. We ask for your guidance and decisions that we make this evening. We pray for our government officials and the decisions that they have to make. Lord, we just pray for our teachers and staff as we try to start school, and just pray for patience and understanding from everyone involved. In the name of our Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas,
one state, under God, one and indivisible.
The mission of Livingston ISD in partnership with our families and community is to provide an exemplary education that prepares students to become successful citizens.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. It's my understanding we have no citizens' comments on the agenda items, so therefore we'll move to the informational portion of the meeting. Dr. Hawkins?
There's no changes at this time on any of those items other than what I've already provided you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Are there any questions from the board? I'll try to talk where y'all can hear me. It's a long windage into this thing. All right. Concludes informational. Move on to administrative reports, the district reopening plan.
Yes.
Is that what we're going to go to the
Yes,
Zoom?
let me just say a few words before we go into that. And I just make sure that everyone can hear me. The district reopening plan. As we move in, first of all and foremost, let me thank everyone that has worked so diligently to get us to where we are. You know, we've had a tremendous challenge that's been presented before us. You know, we thought when March hit and we had to pivot into what I would call deliver emergency or crisis instruction over remote areas of our district, turned our students into remote learners. We thought that was a task. And I'm not sure today where it's not a bigger task in front of us, because the state has asked us, and we have chosen and accepted the challenge to basically run two school systems, one being lines on campus and the other one being lines online. And so that whole process that we went through to get to today, you know, working with the agency, working with the health department, our local entities. You know, I've personally, and with the help of others, we're actually approaching over 500 emails that we've answered questions throughout the night and sometimes during the day to make sure that in moving forward, the first thing we want to ensure is that everybody got adequate information to make good decisions. Throughout this process, you know, I've always said that in public education, the first thing is we always have to examine our mission. That mission is to keep kids safe and accelerate learning. And it seems like over the years that when we say keeping kids safe, that's something we say real fast. And it becomes, you know, a loco parentis means that when students are in our presence, we are in the place of their parents. And so we take on that role, and it's something that we do not take lightly in doing. And so there has been a lot of effort that has went into getting us to where we are. Okay, so, you know, we have stood up about approximately 3 different articles, documents that we've written along the way. Through the TEA guidance, we have also stood up a video, 42-minute long video that gives a voluminous amount of information of where we are as a district. And we have since then sent information to our staff and another information of a side-by-side of the instructional model to our families in order to give them the opportunities that they need in order for us to safely open up on August the 6th. So you know that Texas Association of School Boards has a vendor, which I've been highly impressed in working with. They have a tremendous amount of expertise in facilities, and they have been helping school districts across the nation work through this situation with the virus. And folks, the virus is not going away. It's not going away tomorrow. It's not going away in December. It's here for a while, and it's something that we have to learn to live with. And we have to be precautious about everything that we do in order to ensure that we understand that there is no such thing as safe in our environment. But there is everything that we can do to keep things as safe as possible. And so at this time, I'm going to, we've got the Zoom up. I'm going to let Mr. Burback and his group talk to you as board members and talk about the reopening plan that we've done collaboratively. And then at the end of it, you'll be able to ask any questions which you may have of that group or myself. So, do we have him? Which one? Corey. Yeah, tell him that he is free to start. Kevin, would you let Corey know he can go? Corey, can you hear me?
Someone's not here.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. You're good to go.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. I apologize for talking over you all in the beginning here. We weren't sure which way to go. We're a little excited. Everybody, sounds like you all know my name, or most now know my name is Corey Burback. I'm the Senior Director for Law Enforcement Athletes in charge of all things Texas. I'm based out of our office. Here tonight, we have David Sears, who is our Senior Director, Executive Director, in charge of all of the facilities. And we have Bernadette, who is part of our planning assessment.
Yeah.
Maybe only have one on each end, and everybody can so like maybe Mike for our side, somebody over there for that.
Yeah, why don't you turn all of them off but John Allen, and then maybe all of them off but Scott. I would leave them off. I just leave mine on. We're here tomorrow.
having their temperature screened. And then as you move into the building, that when you get into the hallway, like we discussed on the circulation of the building, how that determined was based on conversations with each of the principals, looking at hallway width, the number of seats that are likely to be in those halls, where they will be moving, how much they'll be moving. So they're all different variables going into how we manage circulation. In some, like the high school, one-way hallways make most sense. You can do that along some of the traverse hallways where the classroom banks are, and on the main stem, you can have two ways. It's wide enough to have plenty of personal space barrier, running corridor space running through the middle, while having a two-way direction and social distancing, standard social distancing on either side. In other hallways, your other elementary schools, the hallways are too narrow to accommodate that. So if you have a larger barrier, a bifurcated, bisected hallway still, and having some social distancing, but not to the degree that you can when the hallways are wider. We know that the AAP advises a minimum social distancing to 3 feet can be helpful. 6 feet is the standard that has been used. So when we, this is the rule, we use 6 feet. In some cases, looking at the individual schools, you still have a two-way with that more novel social distancing on either side. And then having, in some cases, having, for example,
Dave. Mr. Drake has a question.
Well, can you hear me? I was trying to get on. I was listening about the barricades in the hallway at the high school to have one-way traffic. Are those going to be looked at by the fire marshal? Are they already approved? And are they going to affect the fire exit routes that have already been established?
Like painting the street, so there's no more restrictions.
Ahead of myself, but they will talk about it, but in the case of an national emergency or a fire, there are going to be different policies for how we exit building. So social distancing requirements may not have to be installed to ensure the safety of the kids. Now, practice fire drills, that's a different story. But, you know, that's the thing that I'll talk about when we get to the policy.
right. Yeah, we can have a fire drill, for example, split it up, separate the testing of the mechanical with a student. Maybe you're moving students with guns and great, but you're doing it classes, individual classes, you're doing the fire drill, you don't have the entire school at the same time, so you don't have complicated issues, and you kind of split it out, you separate that from testing the equipment, and you can test it to part of the building, those kind of but that's a digress. You know, if I'm very, today, that for past organization, around the country, we've been working on collaboration, we're working together, and there's like a really big collaboration, and the kids working together, around, you know, and unfortunately,
talked about that, and you know, we won't know the exact numbers until Tuesday. And so once parents have chosen between lines online and lines on campus, at that point, that's why it's so crucial for us to get those numbers as soon as possible, because then we can get a real good footprint of what the instructional model for the district needs to look like the first time we went to school.
Before I continue, I do want to apologize. It's just a interaction. I don't know about anything on this. Nothing worse than your folks that were all the time.
Oh, we're good. We all have guns. Yeah, I think there's probably 3 people on stage that have guns, so. Maybe more.
Battery 100%. Connected to well as you go.
That this week. He's got to connect his phone. It's charged. Turn it on.
visually driven all around the building. So that's in process right now. And then, again, before we are, yes, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to jump in, and I'm not sure if you were privy to this, but, you know, Dr. Hawkins added a certification that we're going to have our students, you know, go through prior to attending these.
Yeah, please.
People that they are at and washing their hands and all that. Have you already briefed the board on that, or do you want to take this opportunity?
I'm sorry, was you talking to me, Corey?
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Owens. I was saying, you know, your idea of how we're going to certify our kiddos that they're, you know, experts in washing their hands prior to coming on campus. I think that's something that, if not already discussed, that was a good idea.
Absolutely, and what Corey's talking about there is, you know, each year, for several years now, our teachers have completed modules, online training modules, in which they go in and they learn maybe the state mandated, you know, topics of bloodborne pathogens or whatever the case may be, and they fulfill that requirement through the state by doing those modules online. And so what we would like to do is before our students show up on the first day, all of our students would receive email and they will have instructions on how they can complete and become COVID precaution certified before the first day of school. And so it would go through and be a curriculum on, and it'd be short, it won't won't be anything this lengthy, no 100-question test or anything like that, but it would definitely give them the information that they needed. Because we've talked about, COVID is like living with bears. And so, people in Alaska have learned to live with bears. And you don't clean fish on your doorstep. You don't leave your door open. You see a bear go right, you go left. And they've managed to do that. And we've got to teach our children and students and staff how to learn to live with this virus. And so that would be the context of that curriculum, and then they would work through that module, and then at the end of it, they could, have a certificate or whatnot to be COVID precaution certified.
I just want to make sure that was a really good idea that the superintendent had, so I wanted to make sure we interjected there real quick.
Right, and it goes with the overall theme. It's not just fluffy bunny and rainbows kind of stuff. We're talking about positive messaging that Corey was saying. It's just the science will back up that if you want to adapt to new behavior in a social environment like that, having positive messaging around that is the most effective way to do it. So it's eminently practical. That's what we're looking at. And then lastly, it was just touching again on the PE, art, and music. We are going to avoid large gatherings, visual performing arts. That will impact the curriculum, no doubt about it. And it's unfortunate, but that is part of the new normal for the temporary time being. Practicing outside when possible, impractical, and avoiding the use of shared material. Physical education students participate outside when practical and avoid the use of shared equipment. And we talked as well about physical activity for the young ones and flip-flopping between the blacktop and green space, between the playground and the play yards, to make sure that students can be split into different groups but still active, because everybody knows the importance of making sure that those kids can burn off some steam for everybody's sanity, and themselves included. Okay. Next slide.
And I think, David, like you said, the one thing that came from all of our conversations with the principals is that we realized how important that PE, music, and library time was. And I think we walked away thinking, based off of a number of possibilities in terms of the amount of kids that return, we will still be able to allow some sort of those options to continue. Even nap. We heard about nap time, and nap time is still going to be a go.
On this one, I think with the discussion we've had, I think it might be redundant if I were to read out the bullets, because we mentioned most of them, but one that I realized I did miss is that in the cafeteria for tracing purposes, that there will be designated seating, and so that if a child or a staff member is known to be exposed, we can backwards trace who they were near in this common setting, and then we can do our sufficient contact tracing from that point and alert those who may have been exposed, and then alert them to the necessary protocols for self-screening and then re-entry to schools per TEA.
David, maybe before we move on, do we want to open it up? Any questions about the overarching?
That's appropriate. We've been talking. That would be appropriate. Yeah. Questions, comments thus far? We're good to go. Okay, Dr. Hawkins, anything that you think missing today, or are we good to proceed?
No, I think we're good to proceed. I think we're covering everything and making good time.
All right. Well, I'll pick it up here, David. and you can kind of color
Go for
it.
it. Yep.
But just want to make sure that board where after the board president, because we have to. We're going to have formal policies for a number of different things that all are acting under accordance. And so just want to say that, when we do have a reopening plan, all of our administrators, our site administrators will know how the formal policies and procedures that deals with transportation, specifically knowing that obviously when anything really differs from our day-to-day operations, we want to have those procedures documented. And for example, with transportation, that being all kids wearing masks, not just those that are coming up. We're going to have uniform screening and symptoms across the district. Obviously, those are going to be pulled directly from the TEA guidance. We also are going to pull directly from the TEA guidance, the isolation and reentry. At all of our sites, we have designated or found spaces that we believe are going to suit the treatment of kiddos with the Band-Aids, the cuts, delivering medication, and then maybe those kiddos that we believe might have symptoms that are linked to COVID. And so that way we are continuing our distancing efforts and making sure that we're keeping those two things separate. Fire drills, we have shared the first some thoughts about how that'll be done. We've worked closely, we've worked with the State Department of Idaho, and we will take that plan and work again with our fire chiefs, our local fire chiefs, to make sure they're in support of how we're planning on administering fire drills. Power outages, as I mentioned, that got brought up yesterday. We will have a procedure for power outages. We discussed a few options yesterday, but we'll talk with local administrators and see what works best for their sites, and then just natural emergencies and understanding that at a certain point in time that social distancing will need to not be forgotten, but the need for urgency or to get kids into a safe position obviously overrides the need to social distance. As I talked about a little bit in the beginning, communication is going to be key. So we have FAQs and a site-wide plan that we posted on the district website, and we'll make sure our parents know where those are located via email. But we're also going to have certain site specific issues that'll be linked to the site websites. We've talked to the principals about how they best communicate with their parents, and we've realized that social media as well as email are going to be keys for us once we have settled on certain components. And that way, for example, just understanding that pickup and drop off may be a little bit longer for the first couple of weeks, and making sure we're communicating why that is, and so parents aren't frustrated with us and can call in and take up more of our administrators' time. And then I included nonverbal communication. The visitor policy isn't going to allow for parents to be attending or having access to the site like they have in the past. But if there are cases, especially to use the primary as an example, if we're loading kids in and out of a child seat in the back, we want our parents or whoever's picking up the kids at the primary school to give us a nonverbal thumbs up prior to us opening the door and putting the kid in the car seat. That lets us know that they aren't feeling any symptoms and that the teachers and our administrators are safe in the car. And so we're going to continue to understand how nonverbal communications will help allow seamless transitions and allow us to social distance as well. Just a couple things. Obviously, I mentioned, I do my we follow a lot of guidance, and we're making sure we're up to date on what TEA the governor wants us to do, and then making sure what's required is required, but then there are recommendations and there are local choices that we get to make, and so making sure those are informed and in what's in the best interest of our students. So luckily, I knew we wanted to keep this under an hour, or at an hour. I think we did a pretty good job being right there. So I appreciate your all's time. I kind of open it up for Dr. Hawkins and the board to ask any questions.
I just think some of the other things to add, and Corey's exactly right. You know, visitors in buildings and community schools is something that's very common, and so, you know, we have to give up some things in order to get our kids back in school, and we feel so strongly about the power and the social and emotional aspect of being in the schools that, you know, we're going to have to keep our campuses closed, and so that means, you know, that we're going to give up some events because of the exposure liability of mass gatherings, eating with children, bringing food to school. There's just some things that we're going to try to implement to kind of flatten those emotional curves, you know, and so there's some plans that we have in place that we can do some good things, but we just require everybody's understanding on that. You know, our facilities are closed, and so for the community, you know, we're not going to rent any of our facilities and moving forward this year, just because the main thing we do is the main thing we do, and that is to educate those students and keep them safe in those buildings. And so it's going to require a year of things that are different. You know, the most common question that I've had in this, guys, is, Dr. Hawkins, my kid's eating in the lunchroom, and you know, there's a kid that tested positive, and you sent me an alert home, and I know that there was a positive case in there. Does that mean my kid has to quarantine? Whatever your political, personal, or whatever views are on the mask, it's as I said in the video I put out. I'm not a big proponent of masks, but I can tell you this: if it means we start school, I said I'll wear one 24 hours a day. And so that student that's in that lunchroom, it is not under TEA's guidance close exposure if they have a mask on. And so it's crucial that everyone embrace the power of this mask as far as the governor's plan, Texas Education Agency's plan, and conversely what our plan has become. You know, if you don't like masks, you know, we're going to have to get over it. And we're going to have to put these masks on for our students, and we're going to have to do the best job we can of surviving with them until the medical things change. And so I think that's the most common thing that I've heard a question of. Second most common question is once someone tests, there's a positive test or there's exposure, how do they come back in the buildings? And so I know that we have worked, we've got some flow charts, and there's 3 things that has to happen before someone can come back into the building. 3 days, 72 hours passed since the fever. So recovery, the individual symptoms has improved, and at least 10 days have passed since symptoms have appeared. Those 3 things those 3 boxes have to be checked off. And so I just say that from the standpoint of that's the most common things that I've been asked. But anyone else have questions from the board? Okay, David, Corey, y'all have anything else?
You know, for Chris, if you could unmute Chris Minner on our team too. You've been listening to a lot of this. You've listened to a lot of the webinars and did the principals interviews as well. Anything that you would like to do and add to, and then if not, or even if so, you have a great quote about sort of the need to adapt, about the reserving the right to get smarter. Could you end this closing thought, if you could?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I hate to be the one to extend this meeting and everybody's looking forward to getting home for dinner with their family, but I guess I would add that, you know, we reserve the right to get smarter. And through this process, we're going to get a lot of feedback as we start here from parents, students, and teachers. And in the fall, accept that and acknowledge that we get to get smarter from our experience, and we welcome feedback. And if there's things we can improve in our process, you know, there's really, like David started out with, it's hard to find an expert on putting schools with COVID. it's just because nobody's ever done it. So we embrace the learning and the experience and the lessons to build upon. And so it's a living document, a living plan that will grow and adapt as we learn lessons.
Well, thank you guys. I think the thing,
That's our approach.
yeah, I think, guys, I think the timeline is important, and understanding that, you know, tonight you're being asked to kind of approve some guidelines for us, and so that we can stand up a draft plan on Friday. We can't finalize the plan until we get the final numbers, which will be next Tuesday, and then we can really put the footprint into everything, and then from there it's opening the schools on August the 6th. And so, at any rate, anything else, Corey?
No, I think you outlined the timeline the best. No, we appreciate it, and we've really, I mean this, you know, we don't want to be doing this work, but we really enjoyed getting to know your superintendent and your leaders at the local schools, because they've been a pleasure to work with. So thank you for that.
All right, guys. Well, we will start working again tomorrow, so y'all get a rest. So once again, thank y'all for all y'all done.
Okay, folks, you'll have to get out of, go back and forth with, find your place there. On administrative reports. You need to talk to the mic or?
Probably so.
I can't.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go back to board book and continue with administrative reports. Right now, the next item is concurrent student data.
Okay, the next report is concurrent data, and just wanted to say, you know, this is so important for everything we do, because, you know, the commissioner has put out data that talks about the COVID slide and where our kids are, and I think it's important from the standpoint of there's never been a greater time in education to make an impact, because not only do we have to keep kids with a focus of safety more than any time in the history of public education, the big thing that we know is that we can't allow this to turn into the next generation's educational crisis. And folks, there is a lot to be alarmed about. But we've got to get our kids to where they can be prepared for post-secondary experiences. And I just wanted to give you some numbers. We were at a high, but we can do better. When we look at our dual credit enrollment, we have 155 students that projected for the fall of 2020. And we have 293 classes that they will be signed up for this fall. That's about 40 classes more than ever. That's about 70 classes more than last year. We've started the CTE program, and we've got a cohort of those students. And we also have a cohort of our LVN students who are going to be endeavoring, 6 of them will be endeavoring to, by the time they're 18 years old and they ease into the summer of after their senior year, they will, we hope, be gainfully employed with LVN certification. And so, as I said, there are some definite points to celebrate. That's at an all-time high, but we feel like we can do better. And we have to continue to look for ways to improve that, but at the same time celebrate that our kids have been given a great opportunity. And so, you know, the thing that I left out a while ago that I'll do right now is I just want to thank you as a board of trustees for offering this for our students. And as a board of trustees, when we talk about accelerating learning and having students the best versions of themselves, I don't know what much is a better version of the academic opportunities of having 60 hours of college, or the CTE skills that we've planted, and the seeds of that will benefit this community for a long time. And you know, I thanked everybody earlier, but I didn't thank you as a board. And you know, one item on this agenda is buying those air scrubbers. And what I can say to that is that when we look at our cleaning protocols and our 30-day overlays of our viral killers, our foggers that we bought 3 years ago, and now y'all are considering tonight putting those air scrubbers in, so that our kids, folks, that's the thing that excites me the most about this plan, and it couldn't happen without you as a board of trustees, because you're investing in ensuring that there is no cleaner facilities in Polk County, especially from the air standpoint. And that includes my own house. I don't have that in my house. And so I, as a parent, know that when my child walks into Livingston High School, she's walking into the cleanest environment that I can put her in, cleaner than my own home. And for that, as a father, as a community member, and as an employee of this district, I thank you as the board of trustees.
Yeah, and next will be the crisis goal overview, which is page 222.
Lana
Agenda.
Smith, would you like to say a couple words about the crisis goal, since you're kind of the godmother of that?
The Crisis Go is a digital platform that will help us manage all of our safety.
The Crisis Go is a security platform that will help us manage digitally all of our safety plans for our campuses and our maps. One of the pieces of this is that it also has a mechanism in it, or the capability to have a live reporting and rosters for all of our campuses if we were to be in a situation where we had to set up a reunification center. We would have access to live data and accurate data so that we could account for all of our staff and all of our students. The other thing that it allows us to do is to, Timber Creek right now does not have a way to communicate with the front office, either by phone or by intercom system. And so this system will send out an alert to the devices in the classroom and teacher computers, and the teachers can use it to communicate back to the front office. Any alerts that come across the system can be escalated if it is warranted, and goes straight to administrators so we can make decisions as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's on the computers, tablets, and the
You have a question?
No, we got it.
Okay. Feel like a game show host. All right, the item D, 6D, the transportation report, that is informational only for your review. So we'll go ahead to the, it's 223. And next on the agenda is a consent agenda. And you have those items. Are there any questions on the consent agenda? There being none, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
You did. John Allen, motion by John Allen, second.
Chris Abbas.
Chris Abbas. All those in favor, raise your hand since we can't hear. Any opposed? None. Passes 7-0. All right, now I got past my confusion. Next item are the action items, and we need a consideration to approve the district reopening plan that we were presented in the Zoom conference. Is there a motion?
If I could just interject real quick on that, just so everybody knows, I laid out that timeline of what that looks like, and standing up that draft on Friday would be what you approved, kind of outline of here tonight. That gives parents an opportunity to get, one last look and make a decision as to whether they want lines online or lines in person. And then from that, on Tuesday, we'll know a hard number that we will know what social distancing loads look like in each one of those classrooms from that going forward. And with that, I just say that, as we approve this, I need the authority to every 9 weeks to come back and reset that, because at the end of 9 weeks, parents can choose to move from online to, on-campus instruction, lines on campus instruction. So there'll be some fluidity even in that, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
They won't be able to move anytime other than
9 weeks, that's
They
exactly.
can't be bouncing back and forth and putting more work on teachers.
Right, it is a commitment, and that's what I say, we are a mid-sized school district, and when you take 3,800 kids and 600 employees and about, 12,000 parents out there, and you start trying to move the logistics in a 306 square mile school district, it complicates things, and we can't have students coming each day and choosing to go one way or another. And so TEA has allowed us the grace to be able to hit a reset button every 9 weeks or every grading period.
So do you need this motion to include that reauthorization, or is that going to be done every time?
It's in there.
It's in there. I didn't see it. All right. Is,
What about the students that are diagnosed?
What about the students that are diagnosed and sit home for the 14 days? Will they do the lines online for that 14 days?
They'll still be in the program of Lines on Campus, but they will go to remote platform. There'll still be Lines on Campus, but they'll go to Lines on an online remote platform until those 14 days or until they meet those 3 criteria and to come back into the district. So once they are diagnosed or exposed or whatever the case, we're not going to push them and they can't come back for 9 weeks. They're still part of Lines on Campus until they can safely meet those 3 criteria to come back and join their Lines on Campus.
So and I might be jumping ahead, you might not have got there yet, but while we're talking about that, if a classroom of first graders all get sent home, what does it look like for that classroom and the teacher and everything for the kids to be able to come back?
We would have, if we're talking in hypotheticals, and we're saying that a classroom of first graders are sent home to go into a remote platform. What we're saying is one of those students tests positive, the teacher won't have to go home as long as they don't meet that close proximity that you see on page 8 and 9 of the TEA guidance. And that is because he or she's wearing a face mask. And so that teacher will still be there, and that's why it's so important that students who are 9 and under we're going to follow the governor's order. But if I had an 8-year-old, they'd be wearing a face mask because it protects their educational opportunity to come into that classroom. So if that 8-year-old has a face mask on, then they're not moved over. That 8-year-old continues to come in because they haven't met the guidelines for the TEA guidance. It's a face mask or shield, either one.
Any other questions?
Is our start date still?
August 6th.
Anybody got any questions? I don't want to get up. That's what I was thinking.
I don't get a question.
Well, I don't need them, I'm loud. The guys that we were just talking to, are they?
Yes. They didn't volunteer their services. We paid them as a vendor and a contractor. It was under 50,000, so I approved that.
Thank you.
You bet.
Do you
I
not
didn't
want
think
to
they
pay
were
it?
being nice.
Okay, where were we?
All right, we're approving,
Reopening plan. All right, is there a motion to approve the district reopening
Do we
plan?
need to add anything on there for him to be able to,
he said it's in
is it already in it? So moved.
Okay, we have got a motion by Marty and a second by Kevin. All those in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? None. Passes 7-0. Next on the agenda is consideration to approve the district instructional plan. Jananne Moore, come on down.
This is Dr. Moore on this item, and I think the thing to keep in mind is, what we're actually pulling forward, and she will talk to you about the side by side between lines online and lines in class. The Texas Education Agency is going to make us have this plan approved by October the 1st. And so what she's going to do is just kind of give you a summary tonight and to tell you some things, and then it will be brought back to you. So this item will really need to be tabled, but we wanted you to have the information so that when it comes in August, if you have any questions or anything, that you will have a point of reference on what the agency is asking us to do.
All right, so let me just start by saying what you just approved was the procedural and operations plan. And so the part that I think some of you had some questions about that you didn't hear Corey talk about or was not written in the plan is the instructional side of what happens when a kid comes to school during COVID. So here's the down and dirty. Teachers are still going to teach. Teachers are still going to use the same scope and sequence. And teachers are still going to teach the same concepts no matter what is happening health-wise in our nation. And so how teachers deliver that instruction is what is going to change. I'm sorry, I can't talk with that thing in my mouth. Is what is going to change based on where a student has chosen to receive the instruction. So if I'm at school to the biggest extent that we can, their instruction will be delivered just like it was last school year in the fall, with some parameters that now we have to social distance to the biggest extent that we can. If I choose to be at home, then my instruction, unlike last spring, will be 100% online. So I will not pick up a packet from the school. I will not bring a packet back to the school to turn in my assignments. So if I choose to be an online learner, I am committing to be an online learner. And so that's kind of where the parents have to make a decision, is if they can support that in their home. And there's some parents that can and some parents that are not ready for that. So that's kind of where we're at. I put at each of your spots a chart that has a front and a back. So let me just go over some things so you'll know where we're at. to bring you kind of back up to date on things that have happened over the summer and that you have approved for us over the summer. So technology devices, I just want to let you know where we're at and kind of what the game plan is. Pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, we have upgraded all of our iPads in the district, and so every classroom will have 12 iPads per classroom to use the programs and instructional tools that they are already very familiar with. So that's iPads for kinder and pre-K. First and second grade, we have purchased and are waiting for them to be shipped. They should be here mid-August. 15 touchscreen Chromebooks per classroom. They will have mobile charging carts, and that will also accommodate the iPads in the first and second grade classroom. And then third grade has 15 regular Chromebooks per classroom, and those numbers will increase depending on where we're at with online learners. And then they will have a non-mobile charging cabinet that will be used, and that's what they've had last year. So that's not anything new for them. What I would like to say about first, second, and third grade is that for our district, we have not required a first, second, or third grader to be a proficient Google Classroom user. And so we have focused this summer with our first, second, and third grade teachers to help them we're going to move in that direction. So if something happens in our community and the school gets shut down again, then hopefully those parents and those students will have used Google Classroom in their classroom setting in a very controlled environment to the extent that when they are at home, they could use it and be proficient enough to receive an assignment and turn something back in. There's a Google app that parents can use, and we are asking teachers this year, instead of sending home like the homework sheet that many of you have been familiar with, there will not be a written homework sheet. It will be in the Google app. And so parents will need to use their phone, look at their Google app, see what their homework assignment is for the night, and begin to become familiar with Google Classroom in that setting. All right, fourth and fifth grade, students will be issued Chromebooks that they will keep at home. And once again, those Chromebooks are in shipment, and so they have not gotten here yet. As soon as they get here, middle of August, then they will go home. Until that time, we will have classroom sets that will be used at school, and they'll have the mobile charging carts. So they'll move them out in the hallway during the day, put them back in the classroom at night to charge. Junior high and high school will be the same. Students will be issued Chromebooks, and they'll travel back and forth from home to school. All right, right below that, yes.
Is this the first year that we're sending Chromebooks home to stay home?
No, we have sent Chromebooks home, yes, I'm sorry, for fourth and fifth grade. Last year, we had Chromebooks inside of the fourth and fifth grade classrooms, but they did not travel home. This year, fourth and fifth grade will take their Chromebook home, and they will not travel with them.
So what about I know that in the past, the students were able to use their Chromebooks to download their daily work or their weekly work or whatever.
So when they download, it downloads to their Google Classroom, or it downloads, and then, now I could be wrong about this. I understand your question, but I don't have an answer.
If they get home and they don't have internet access and they have their at-home Chromebook, how are they going to be able to work on that Chromebook?
They can't. So that is a good question. So we need to address that. Because you're right, it was downloading to the device.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, but I don't know how it's going to, we'd have to do some tweaking.
Yeah, but if they don't take it.
Not if they don't take that device home, because it's downloading to the device. So we will have to be very careful about what we ask students to do at home in fourth and fifth grade from like a Google Doc that they don't have access to. You're correct.
Are we
about fourth and fifth graders damaging the devices?
Yes. Yes. So that was the intent of having the Chromebook at home and then having one at school, because that is where we have seen the most damage on the Chromebooks is the travel back and forth. They put them in the car, someone sits on them, so it's opened up, someone, there's things that get crushed in the middle of it. That seems to be where the damage is coming from. All right, so on the bullet points, it says Chromebook insurance will be utilized for 4th through 12th grade because that is the place where the Chromebooks are going home. Clever is an app that will be used for a single sign-on, which means that once you sign into Clever, anything that you have access to will automatically be opened up for you. So if I'm a student and there are 5 programs that I use that have 5 sign-ons, I don't have to remember all of that as a first grader trying to log into all of my programs. I have one sign-on and it opens up everything. Google Classroom will be our district learning management system, and I know that several of you, as you've listened to everything from TEA, you probably wondered what a learning management system is. There are all different brands and kinds and Cadillac versions and non-Cadillac versions. Google Classroom is what we have used as a district learning management system. That is, it will supposed to talk nicely with the state system, but it is not exactly the same as the state learning management system based on what they have told us their choices are. They haven't solidified what that one is yet. Headphones have been ordered for students to use on campus, and we ordered a little bit nicer version of headphones this year so that hopefully we will not have the breakage. So they're not just the little earbuds, they are actually headphones that will hopefully last longer. Webcams will be placed with every teacher computer, so when we are delivering instruction to our online students, then teachers will actually have the webcam on their computer, be able to record themselves, record a lesson, do some things that were a little limited last spring when we were shifted and we're at home. All right, so I'm going to flip over just for a second. We'll come back to the bottom of this page. But if you look at the chart, this is what went home with, or actually went out with Dr. Hawkins' last letter. Just to give parents a side-by-side of some various things that as people had called in, and these were some of the top categories that they were asking questions about. If you have a specific question, then we can go to that area, but otherwise I'm going to start at daily attendance because that has been a hot topic question because of how TEA wants us to count attendance. So let me just go back and give you a little bit of information. During the school day, when students are on campus, we have, TEA makes us designate an attendance period. And so during that attendance period is our official count. And so whatever our official count is for that day is taken during a period. Well, if I am at home and I am an online learner and I am doing what the state is calling asynchronous instruction, which means that it is not necessarily at the same time as instruction on the campus, then we still have to have a method for attendance accounting purposes. So for our students, on the other side of the page where it talked about attendance, I was trying to give you the description of how that will work. So for instance, at the high school or at the junior high, at any campus, if I am an online learner, one of my class periods will be my Lions online attendance period. And so during that attendance period, there will be some type of an assignment, whether it is to log into a program and do so many, maybe a reading lesson, or maybe it's to watch a video and then answer a question. Maybe it's to have a Zoom meeting with one of my teachers, something that the student will have to do every single day during that time to show that they are in attendance at school and making progress with what they're doing at home. And so for an asynchronous model, we have to be able to show that during that attendance time. If, and some school districts are doing a synchronous model, which means that the entire day they have to be online at a certain time, doing a certain subject, and working seamlessly with every other student on campus. That is not the model that we've chosen to use simply because of our accessibility to the internet. So if a parent needs to, go to a campus and access the internet, it would be very difficult to do that for 8 hours a day and not have internet in their home during that time. So daily attendance, I think, does anyone have any questions about that? Because we have had people that have called in for attendance questions. Everyone okay with that? The state did not hold students as accountable last spring on attendance as far as the truancy laws and the 90% rule and all kinds of stuff like that. But none of that has a waiver this year. So attendance, whether you are at school or at home, all of the laws still apply the same. So that's why we have to have an attendance period. All right, submitting assignments. Again, we talked about that, but if I am a Lion on campus, all of my assignments will either be submitted virtually through my Google Classroom, or I'm handing them in to the teacher. I'm doing whatever the teacher would normally do on a daily basis. If I am at home online, then all of my assignments are submitted through Google Classroom or whatever platform that the virtual program that the teacher is using at that time is submitted through. Grading policies will not change based on where I'm at. And so if I have a high school science class that has 10 daily grades and I am at home, I will have a high school science class that has 10 daily grades. They may not be exactly the same grades, but I will still have the same grading requirements no matter where I'm at. Course offerings. I would like to mention that for high school, there will be some classes, for instance, welding, that will not be an online class. So if I'm taking welding, or if I'm taking wood shop, there may be some of the ag mechanics classes. There's just some things that you can't do online. You have to be in person to actually weld something or build something. And so those students, today's Tuesday, beginning Thursday, the high school counselors are going to start calling students that have requested to be an online learner, and we may have to make some schedule adjustments for those kids. They may have to change their plan for graduation as far as, if they were going to graduate with through the welding track, that may not be that's not going to be a choice that they will have anymore. And so they may have to change their graduation plan and change their schedule. And so we're going to have to make those calls and have conversations about that. We've talked about, or y'all talked about extracurricular participation, but if you are online, then you're not eligible for extracurriculars. Face coverings, I would like to mention that 4th grade through 12th grade is required. 4th grade is the year that students are 9 and 10. And so we just made a blanket decision that all 4th graders will wear their face mask. We have purchased face shields for the elementary campuses to use during small instruction time. So if I have a small group of students that come to the teacher and I'm working with 4 kids in a reading group and we're working on some very specific skills, then they will all have on a face shield so that they may not be social distance, but we still have on a face shield so that they are protected as far as that is concerned. Visitors to campus, they will be restricted to only essential school operations, which means a diagnostician that may travel from one campus to another will be on those campuses, but parents coming in to eat lunch with their child will not be on the campus. And then parent responsibility, and I would like to point this out. If you look on the lines online, a parent or guardian will need to be actively available throughout the day to support their child. And so this is, if a parent is choosing for their child to stay home and be a lion online, then it's going to take some active involvement on the parent side. It's really not something that that even a high school kid needs to be pretty much by themselves teaching and going through their assignments. And so it really is going to involve a commitment from the parents on their part. All right, so like Dr. Hawkins said, we have to turn in our asynchronous plan to the state by October, and they have released today some sample plans that we can go back and look at and make sure that we are doing things the way that the state would prefer us to do them. But this does give you an overview of some of the topics that have come up in questions from parents. So do y'all have questions?
I am curious about the social emotional learning and the adverse childhood experiences. Is that coming from administrators that are tied to certain kids, or is that?
So are you talking about on the attendance side?
Well, it was somewhere else in my TASB stuff too.
So,
I didn't see it over here though.
so at this point, with students not being on a campus for the last 6 months, like they normally would have been, there is going to be some social emotional learning and anxiety that kids have had. I personally think that as students, if I choose to be a lion online and I stay home, there could still be some social emotional anxiety that comes with that. And so one of the things that we're going to ask our campuses to do is to address that, or have those conversations, or have some instruction in social emotional learning for those kids specifically that are still at home. I think that sometimes their anxiety level, because they're at home for a reason.
Right, but those adverse childhood experiences, that's another one.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that we're not missing that.
No, I don't. Yeah, no. I think that we're gonna put some things on campus to make sure that we're hitting and touching on those things as well.
And then obviously lost time and gaps.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Well, you need to go back to or you covered the attendance.
Yeah, we talked about the attendance when it came on the other side.
This is on the agenda as a motion item, but since it's not really complete, there's still some outstanding issues. I'd ask for a motion to table it. Motion by Mike to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by John Allen. All those in favor, raise your hand. Passes 7-0. I can't talk in this thing.
You're doing great.
No. Keep hammering. All right. Next on the agenda is consideration to approve LISD 2020-2021 Student Code of Conduct. It's on page 295 of your agenda.
Very few changes in the student code of conduct. As you know, we've had no legislative session, and so when you look through that, it's very similar to the one we had. Len, anything you want to add to that?
Okay, is there a motion to approve the student code of conduct? Scott makes a motion, second by Kevin. All in favor, raise your hand. That's a 7-0. Next on the agenda is consideration to approve change in school start and end time.
Main reason this was done was because once our plan gets up, we have plans for our principals to do videos so that the students and parents can see the changes on campus. And so in order to have better safety procedures going into our campus for a congregation of large numbers of kids, we're asking to push the start times, end times 15 minutes so that we'll have a better flow into the classrooms because teachers are going to be on duties in classrooms instead of in commons areas. As students get out of their cars, they will flow into the buildings and have breakfast in the classroom. So that's kind of the reasons behind why we're asking for that.
Okay, that's on page 347 of your agenda. If you don't see it, AEP hours will be 7:15 to 3 o'clock. Junior high and high school are 7:30 to 3:15. LHS Academy is 8:30 to 1 o'clock. And all of the primary and elementary schools will be 8 o'clock to 3:45. Are there any questions? If not, I ask for a motion to approve the new start times. Marty makes a motion. Is there a second? Krista Bass makes a second. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, likewise. All right, Mike, are you for it or against it? Oh, I didn't see you, sorry. All right.
Just out of curiosity, how early in the student?
I'm for it, I guess. Hope that
Prior.
all the people get to work at 8 o'clock. They can be dropped off.
7:30.
It's different on the campuses. Principals, what's your earliest the kids can be dropped off, Dr. Dre?
7, because they have to go directly in the room, so we gotta give our teachers.
Mr. Nettles?
Yeah, teachers are gonna be expected to be in the classroom ready to go at 7, so we're gonna let, about 6:55, we're gonna let kids start to come to the door.
Okay, Ms. Hill?
7:30.
Ms. Murphy?
7:30.
Ms. Bell?
7:30.
Ms. Barnes?
10:30.
Didn't miss anybody, did I?
Like parents have
Dr. Trammell?
7.
I think Mike, would you talk?
I voted for it. No, I agree. I just think as long as they got, a lot of parents have to be at work by 8, they can't be late. I think they're getting better.
Generally, it's 30 minutes or more before the start time. The doors are open, what I've seen from the polling. Is that correct, Principal? If not, 30, 35 minutes ahead. All right. That motion did pass unanimously.
Oh, dude, you gotta leave the house at 7:15 to get the line.
Okay, are there,
You can't leave at 7:30 to drop them off and make it.
all right, are there any other questions? If not, we will recess for a short break and return to executive session or closed meeting under 551-074.
Admin, we'll see you at 10 on Zoom tomorrow. Everybody else, y'all have a good day. God bless you. God bless the great Livingston Lions.
Thanks for coming. I know you'll have fun.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for mask. Lisa Pierce, George Mask.
You can have it.
Yeah, you don't take it
Oh, you
back,
don't want
Marty.
it back?
I got another one in my purse, somebody did